Dagda agus tá fáilte romh it's mission an Scéalaí Beag. Hello, and you're very welcome. I'm the little storyteller. It is Patron Insider time, and given that we are at the mid-month reward position for those committed club members, it is the audio reward. And as a special thing for today, I'm giving the audio patrons, those committed club members, two audio recordings instead of one. Um, I was going through doing the recordings, and it's normally only the one a month, but as I was going along, the first one is about a personal interaction between me and the Dagda, which I wanted to share, and giving some insights into my relationship with him and in some ways how he acts when we're dealing with each other. But the next story, as I was going in my list, is called A Battle's Due. And I was like, I can't not record that one. It is one of the stories I really enjoyed writing. And I've really enjoyed recording it as well. Telling that story has kind of struck a lot of feels and resonances in me. The Battle's Due is actually based on the first battle in Moytura. So it's from the Lauragabal era in the Book of Invasions, which is kind of Ireland's early history. We know that the Firbolg was the tribe who came into Ireland first. Well, actually, there was a number of other tribes before that, but the Firbolg were the ones who were established and in rule of Ireland when the Tuatha Dé Danann arrived. And the first battle is the coming home of the Tuatha Dé Danann, given that they're descendants from Nemed. And but the thing is, the Firbolg are also descendants of Nemed. And this is where my exploration of the lore was really, really fascinating for me. Because as we go through the run up to the Battle of Moytura, Nuada is the king. So Nuada is the first king of Ireland for the Tuatha Dé Danann. And he asks Uchud, who is the king of the Firbolg, can we just, have a bit of land? Can we just like live here? Let's be peaceful. Like you're descended from the same people we're descended from. Can we just come home, please? But Uchud gets some really bad advice from his chieftains and his druid, which is like, if you give them anything, then they will just take over. Because they're better at everything, accordingly to this prophecy. And so it does lead to conflict. But fascinating, the conflict is one that is agreed. It's not an all-out genocidal war. It's not a war of conquest. It is an agreed structure by which both people will strive against each other to prove their worth. And we can see that in no more ready a space than before the battle even happens, in the full run up to all of it, when we're still in the negotiation stage. One of the champions of the Tuatha Dé Danann, Bresh. Now, this is not Bresh the Beautiful. This is not half Fomorian Bresh. It's an older Bresh. He has an exchange of technology. He meets Shreng, the champion of the Firbolg, and he's like, hey, what's that you're carrying? And Shreng is like, oh, these are javelins. This is what we use. They're pretty awesome for hunting and everything. And Shreng is like, what's that you're carrying? And Bresh is like, oh, this is a spear. This is what we use for defending and fighting. And the first thing they do, champion to champion, is exchange weapons. And it goes further than that, in that the peoples kind of swap experts and they teach each other how to make those weapons, knowing that it's going to come to the point of conflict, which they always try and prevent. Nuada time and again sends emissaries to try and prevent a conflict. But when it gets to the point of battle, it will be fought as based on their own abilities and their skills, as opposed to some technological advantage. It's not a case of, well, one people have better missile weapons, so they're going to hold on to that, begrudge that, and then use it to their own advantage. It's a fascinating kind of experience. But in that story, we find the fall of Nuada. Nuada is the king, and in battle against Shreng, he does lose his arm. And that is the mortal wound that is placed upon him. But it doesn't actually lead to his ending. But it does lead to him having to step down as king. So exploring kind of that and his relationship with the Dagda and their connection as to kind of champions and where they come from. Because they both are carriers of one of the four treasures of the Tuatha Dé Danann. They're both, heroes in this regard. Champion the Dagda being, the holder of the cauldron from Murias, this cauldron from which no one could go unsatisfied. But Nuada has the treasure, the Cleave Solace, the sword of light, against no one can stand. So there is this kind of, obviously relationship and stuff that, I wanted to explore really. And it is said in various recensions of the documents that when Nuada is cut down, the Dagda actually breaks the lines to stand over Nuada, and he stands over Nuada, and no one can actually lay a hand on Nuada until he is recovered away to be secured. So it was that kind of idea, that kind of relationship that I really wanted to explore in that story of Battles Due, as well as the relationship between these two champions, these two heroes, these two leaders, and the different ways in which they lead. So the stories of Battles Due, it is on the Patreon for in written form for all of the kind of close patrons and up. So, like the casual patrons wouldn't have access to that, but the committed patrons today get the audio recording of that story, as well as another story called A Cold Stroll. So, thank you very much for your support. I'm very, very grateful to be able to be diving into all of the ancient Irish lore. You can obviously tell it is my passion. It is something I'm really, really enthusiastic about, and being able to kind of retell those stories, bring that information forward, and engage kind of more and more people with my passion is something I'm very honored and very humbled to be able to do. So, Gaurav Mila Mahagas, thank you very, very much. August Slán. Goodbye.